My book, Zero Limits, I always felt like it came from what I'll call the divine. It was descended. I got it. I wrote it in 2 weeks. That's the only one of my books that I reread because it feels like I didn't write it. So it's fresh to me. Hello and welcome. You've landed on Zero Limits Living. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. This week is no different. It's going to be a juicy one. You're going to want to take notes. This is going to be very, very exhilarating and inspiring. This show is now so popular, you can see it or hear it on 1,000 platforms across the galaxy, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Spotify, YouTube, and probably anything you can name, and probably anything you're watching or listening to right now. To make it easy for you, I'm putting all the episodes in one place, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. You can also sign up there to be notified whenever there is a new episode. So ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com is the place to be. Also, people always ask me about coaching. I started a coaching program almost 20 years ago. It's trademarked. It's a system that's working, and you can find out for yourself what it's all about. Go to miraclescoaching.com, miraclescoaching.com. Get your free consultation, no charge, no obligation. Go kick the tires, so to speak, and see what you think. And my new program, mentaltimetravelsystem.com. It's a way to go into the past to change your perceptions to empower you in the moment so you can create the future that you long for and desire. I know you're confused, but you're also curious. So go to mentaltimetravelsystem.com. And my most recent book became a bestseller. And I just found out the other day that the Los Angeles Tribune is featuring it as a #1 bestseller for that media publication. It's on Amazon, or go to unexpectedkindnessbook.com, unexpectedkindnessbook.com. Now, talking about unexpected kindness, I do this show for you. I don't get paid. I bring guests on here. They don't get paid. We're all doing this as an act of unexpected kindness because we care and we're trying to help. What we're going to be talking about today is one of my favorite subjects. It's about how to become wealthy, how to get rid of the bills, how to actually attract money. I've written a lot about this, but I'm still looking for the experts and the people that have wisdom that is new for you and for me. And I have the author of a brand new book called Rich and Righteous as my guest. I found this book on my own. I was devouring it. I went and got his workbook, which is called Rituals. And I went and found him. And let me introduce him because he's standing by with a big smile on his face. He's eager and ready. Jullien Gordon is on a mission to create the wealthiest family in the world by helping 100,000 people achieve $1 million in net worth. He is a full-time accredited investor, real estate educator, and developer. As the leader of the multifamily movement, he has helped over 700 people acquire over $250 million worth of multifamily real estate and achieve what he calls rent and mortgage freedom. In less than 8 years, Jullien built a personal real estate portfolio of 15 multifamily homes with 40 apartments in Brooklyn, Oakland, Baton Rouge, Atlanta, and New Orleans, in addition to being a lead investor in several Black-owned real estate funds. Jullien is also a 6-time author, 5-time TED speaker, and has been featured on MSNBC, Forbes, and Inc. He recently wrote the book I just held up and still have, and we're going to be talking about Rich and Righteous, Spiritual Secrets to Mastering Money, Manifestation, and Your Mind. Mm-hmm. You can follow him on Instagram. He's at Jullien Gordon, and his website is rentfree.com, but we'll talk more about that later. Anyway, I got the man here. Jullien, how are you?
What's going on, doctor? I'm here. Happy to be here.
You're here. What have you been up to today?
Man, I went to look at 73 acres of land here in Georgia today. So
73.
That took up the first half of the day. Land was God's first gift to man before life, right?
Yeah.
Land was here. And so it is valuable for that reason. And that's kind of what led me into real estate, being that the land, everything that we use, everything that we consume, it actually comes from the land. And of course, we mistreated that land and we haven't been the best stewards of it. And so I'm really committed to home ownership and land ownership for people who are in alignment with nature and the laws and with God, and who want to be good stewards of those spaces.
That's wonderful. You got big plans for that 73 acres?
Actually looking at a couple other projects or a couple other pieces of land before making a decision. But yeah, it would be an intentional community.
That is fantastic. Well, I got to tell you, I'm very excited to talk to you because I stumbled across your book because I'm always reading on that subject and always looking for different ways to understand wealth and the mindset around it and how it fits in with spirituality.
Yeah.
And so when I came across your book, Rich and Righteous, I went, what in the world is this? Where'd this come from? And I start reading it and, oh, my Lord, my man, you have worked hard. You have illuminated a whole lot of insights and principles. Wow. There is so much in this book. I was flipping through it earlier, going, how am I going to ask you everything I want to ask? There's too much here, which means everybody has to get the book. Mm-hmm. But let's go back. Go back. You weren't always this way. I don't think you were born with the awareness of rich and righteous. There had to be some sort of awakening along the way. So bring me back to before that. What was life like when you were growing up or as a child? How did you get to that turning point where this becomes your way of life?
Yeah, well, I actually had a silver spoon in my mouth growing up. I'm the son of two doctors. So I had everything that I needed provided for growing up. My parents had followed the Cosby plan: be good, get good grades, go to good school, get a good job. And they ended up becoming medical professionals. They divorced when I was 1 year old. And so I was in between both of their households. But in terms of financially, I had the bare necessities or the basics provided for, right? But they didn't spoil me. I still had pro wings from Payless. I didn't have couldn't just ask and get everything that I desired. I had to buy my own first car. And I'm actually grateful for that because it taught me how to be scrappy and how to create for myself, as opposed to being spoiled. And so, but what I recognized for my parents, given that they were in the upper middle class, was that wasn't actually true freedom, right? That wasn't true freedom, in that they were still trading time for money, and there were going to be limits to their income. In fact, one of my parents ended up dealing with alcoholism and that depression first, which led to alcoholism, and they actually lost everything that they had. So I had one parent who came from Caribbean upbringings and was a very Scrooge with money and very tight with it. And again, just provided for me because that's all he knew growing up. He was one of 17. He was one of 17 children. So his parents just provided for him. It was just food, clothes, and education. That was his perception of parenthood. And I'm grateful for that. Right. And then I saw another parent actually lose everything. And so being caught between both those worlds, I was like, wow, even when you've checked off all the boxes on the American dream, that doesn't actually guarantee anything, because one little situation in life, a mental health situation, which is not always in your control, can throw everything off. And so there has to be a way to get beyond just trading time for money, even if you have a quote unquote good job. And so as I was going through my own journey, I ended up going to UCLA for undergrad. And after my freshman year, I was tutoring, and I saved up some money, and I bought my car. I bought a Mercedes-Benz, a 1990 190 Mercedes-Benz, and 2 miles after driving it off the lot, it broke down.
Oh, wow.
I got it from a used car auction for $3,500. And so I spent more money to fix the car than I did to buy it. Yeah. It's a European car, right? I didn't know that as an 18-year-old at the time. And then 2 weeks after having it fixed, it was stolen at gunpoint.
Wow.
It was stolen at gunpoint. And that was a huge awakening for me. And that's when everything turned for me. Unfortunately, that summer I was an RA. So I had housing and food taken care of. Again, the basic necessities of life. And I went through a deep space of introspection, right? And I had to ask myself some serious questions like, whose definition of success was I living, right? And I realized that I was living out my parents' definition of success, right? The only reason I got a Mercedes-Benz is because that was the car that my parents had. It was the car that my parents had. And so I was trying to show them that I was on a path to success like them by getting the things that they got faster than they got them. So if they got a Mercedes at the age of 30, I wanted to get one at the age of 18, right? And that's how I was going to be better than my parents, right? But then after losing that car and gratefully having my life, I realized the value of my life and the life force energy that's within me. And I had to ask myself, what's my definition of success? And once I started getting clear on that, I realized that my definition of success was actually different than my parents, that it had nothing to do with the medical profession. It didn't really have much to do with academic success, but it really had to do with how many people I could help with this life that I had. And there's this interesting dynamic in Silicon Valley where I went to get my MBA at Stanford. And there's interesting dynamic in Silicon Valley. I heard from a venture capitalist that they like to invest in founders that have had a near-death experience, like Steve Jobs, because when they have that near-death experience, they realize that there's something more meaningful and greater than just it being about money, but they're actually here to make an impact or leave a dent in the universe. And that's kind of what happened to me and for me. And I realized that my life was bigger than me, and that my life was not promised. Right. And so I've been using my life to be a blessing and help as many people as possible. And that originally started off with helping people find their purpose. And then it expanded into real estate and this more spiritual work in terms of what I call financial spirituality.
What an amazing story there. You didn't actually have a near-death experience, but an almost near-death experience, correct?
Correct.
With them pulling a gun on you, which,
yes.
Sorry that even happened, but I understand it was a turning point for you.
Yes.
What's fascinating to me is the rich and righteous, this whole blend of wealth and spirituality. You probably know I've written books like The Awakened Millionaire and Money Loves Speed and Attract Money Now. And I always try to bring in the spirituality, but you do it in a very definite, concrete, real, practical and knowledgeable way.
Thank you.
How did you get all of that knowledge? This is a hefty book. How long did it take you to write this, by the way?
That was 6 months. Waking up at 3 a.m. and just letting God use me and move my fingers.
Do you really feel like you were dictated to? You were really just kind of a stenographer and taking it down?
100%. 100%. Like I don't even feel it's fair to put my name as the author of this book. Honestly, I feel like I was just the vessel that this book came through, and I'm grateful that God used me in that way. When I read the book, I've read it over 10 times now, and when I read the book, I still get new things from a book that I quote unquote wrote. You know what I'm saying? So
I do. I have one book, my book Zero Limits. I always felt like it came from what I'll call the divine. It was descended. I got it. I wrote it in 2 weeks. That's the only one of my books that I reread because it feels like I didn't write it. So it's fresh to me. The difference with this, though, this is so meaty. There is so many insights. In other words, it really feels like it might have taken you years, first of research and then of writing to communicate it. Are you really telling me that all of this came as a download?
It's a combination of things.
Okay.
So it's a combination of my dad's scarcity mindset and my mom's desire for abundance and wealth. It's a combination of my spiritual background and my business orientation, right? So, I mean, if you just checked off how many people have read the Bible from cover to cover and went to a top 10 business school, that number would probably just be a handful in and of itself. And so I've always been at the center of these two worlds. And I really believe that the righteous in this world, the righteous meaning those who are in alignment with God's will, I really believe that we are meant to be rich, but religion or religiosity has convinced us otherwise. And that if you are spiritual or if you're religious, you're actually supposed to be in poverty and that your heaven is going to come after this life. But Jesus says, I'm come that they may have life and have it more abundantly, have life more abundantly, not death more abundantly. But religion has convinced you that you're going to have your wealth and your riches once you die. And that is not what the scripture says. And so there's been a lot of deception in terms of religion and religiosity that has convinced people that they are meant to have their pie in the sky later. And I believe that the kingdom of heaven is right here and right now, that abundance is our birthright as children of God.
Well, you got an uphill battle, though. Doesn't most of religion and probably all the religions, in a big general term, say that it's not now, it's later?
Yeah. They do. They do.
Why? Why? Are they naively? Are they ignorant? Are they getting it wrong? Do they have a hidden agenda? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, they position themselves as the middleman. So rather than accepting your identity as a child of God, right, which has to be true, because where else did you come from? If you're not a child of God, then you must be a bastard. And where did you? And if you're a bastard, then where did you come from? But we all come from God, and for me, that's the highest universal truth: is that we're children of God. But most religions have to convince you first and foremost that you're a sinner. That is their default first principle, that you're a sinner. And now that you've accepted the identity that I'm a sinner, that I'm born in sin, then you have to come through this institution or this dogma and ideology to be free of sin. And so they position themselves as a middleman by first convincing you that you are not a child of God and that you are a sinner, that you're other than, and therefore this is how they get their tithes, this is how they get their offerings, this is how they maintain their institutions. But so that's really the challenge. And because if you realize that you're a child of God and that the temple is here, right? If I tell everybody to point to your temples, where are they? The temple is here, not in a building, right? And in the actual scripture, it says God does not dwell in temples made with the hands of man. What is the only temple not made with the hands of man? It is right here. And so there's so much opposition to the actual message in the Old Testament and the New Testament. There's so much opposition that if those who are religious, particularly Christian, because that was my upbringing, though I no longer identify as such, if they actually read the text for themselves, they would see that Jesus, in and of himself and his own message, was actually against much of the religiosity that they participate in, which is the religious dogma. So I'm not against Christians, but Christianity as an institution. Just like if I critique America, I'm not critiquing all Americans. I'm just critiquing the institution and the powers of be in America. And the same thing for Christianity and many of the other major religions.
This is fascinating. You are fascinating. Your insights are fascinating. The whole idea of the temple up here as you point to your forehead and between your ears, that's fascinating to me. You brought up sin and sinner, and that's how a lot of leverage is used to manipulate people. What is your definition of that? What is sin? What is the sinner?
Well, in archery, to sin means to simply miss the mark, right? And so we all miss the mark. So I guess religion has taken that and said, you're a sinner because you missed the mark, right? But here's what I tell people. Go get the youngest child in your family and go look them in the face and call them a sinner 100 times. Go ahead and try it. Go get the baby, the newest born child in your family, look at them in the face and call them a sinner 100 times and see if you can do it. You won't be able to make it to 10 because you know it is not true. Now, as we experience this life and we start making decisions on our own, do we miss the mark? Meaning being out of alignment with what the Creator has for us? Yes, we all miss the mark. But Dr. Joe, if I play basketball occasionally, like once a month, would you call me a basketball player? Would you add the ER to my identity if I play occasionally? No. But if I play basketball every single day, then guess what? I'm all of a sudden, I'm a basketball player because that's my identity. So a sinner is not my identity. However, I do sin and I do miss the mark every now and again. So that is my distinction. And all it means is that we miss the mark and that we're out of alignment with the will that God has for our lives.
How did you come to these conclusions? I love them and I agree with them. So we're not here to fight or arm wrestle. I'm here to explore and be inspired and help all the people watching. But where did you get these insights? You download this book, and even that I'm still curious about. It's like did suddenly something knock at your door, your temple, and you said start writing. Help me here. Where did the inspiration for the book come from, and where is these insights into living like the temple and the sinner and righteousness and rich and right? Where do those come from? Where did they come from?
Man, that's a great question. First thing, even in the question that you asked, I actually don't believe in conclusions. I don't have any conclusions. My mind is open. And what I do is I stay curious. So even if I've come to a point on my journey, I never define it as a conclusion, because if I define it as a conclusion, then I stop seeking and learning. So I've come to a point, an elevated thought and a firm thought in my journey, but I never define it as conclusion. There may be something higher than rich and righteous that comes forth through me in the future. And then everything that was in rich and righteous, I don't throw it out. I just say it was part of my journey. So just coming from that mindset of staying curious. But of course, we have language patterns in the American or English language. Curiosity killed the cat. Right. And then in religion, they say, lean not on thy own understanding. right? So they kind of push you away from asking questions, though there's also scripture that says, seek and you will find, ask and it shall be given, right? So I've chosen to lean towards, no, I'm going to ask. I believe that my mother, father, God wants me to know the truth of why I'm here and what I'm supposed to do, that it's not supposed to be in the dark and it's not supposed to be in secret. Now, where I get most of my divine downloads is through meditation in the morning.
Okay.
The first thing I do in the morning is I get in touch with my creator, just like we plug in our cell phones to get connected, or we make sure that they're on Wi-Fi to be connected to some higher thing, right? We have to plug into our creator. And for me, meditation, it's not some woo-woo practice. It's really quieting the mind. Be still and know that I am God. Take no thought. These are things that are in scripture. And if you ever had a snow globe, right? When a snow globe is shaken up, you can't see clearly. But if you just put it down and let it be still, what happens is that the snow globe in this situation, it actually gets clear, and now you can see clearly. And so that time in the morning for me, 10 to 15 minutes, is really, really valuable, because that's where I feel I can hear God before the day begins and I start acting on other people's behalves and running around and doing my to-do list. That is a very critical time for me. I've also gone through a journey of not only reading the Bible from cover to cover, but beyond reading the Bible, decoding the Bible. Decoding the allegories, the similes, the metaphors. Even in the New Testament, Jesus says he only spoke in parables. So we don't take those parables as literal. But what has happened in Christianity is that many Christians take the Bible as a literal book, even though it is full of allegories, parables, metaphors, and similes that have to be decoded for you to truly get the richness and the deeper understanding of that book, right? Mm-hmm. So these are and so metaphor came into my life actually through hip hop, right? When I was in high school, my best friend rapped. And so I would go to the studio with him and his cousin, and I would sit around, and that really got me familiar with metaphor and how it worked. And so now, for me, that translated into poetry later in college, and then it translated into me becoming a public speaker and using metaphor and simile, just like Jesus, to explain my messages around time management or networking or managing college or managing your employees, right? And so now when I go into the Bible, I'm able to look at it from an allegorical standpoint, that I'm able to pull out the richness of some of these stories that some people take literally. But if you look beyond the surface, it's really an allegory to teach us something about life in our existence.
So tell me, how do you know that your conclusions are correct?
Remember, there are no conclusions. There are no conclusions.
You got me on that one. But how do you know that when you even write down something that's come to you, or you have an insight because you were looking at the allegorical view of the Bible, for example, and so you have an insight there, and whether that's the conclusion in that moment, you have an insight. How do you know that is a correct, relevant insight? You're not the first person to read the Bible. You're not the first person in centuries of wrestling with these insights. And what does he really mean? What was Jesus really saying? So you have an insight in the moment. You write about it in your book. How do you know that this is correct? How do you know that the vibe is divine?
It's just an inner resonance. Mm-hmm. It's an inner resonance, because even with some of the insights that are in the book, I can go Google some of the insights that I've gotten are so unique that I can go Google them, and there's nobody else who has had that original.
I would agree, based on what I've read in your book. I would agree. You've had some startling insights, which is why I keep going back to, where did they come from?
So it's an inner resonance. It's an inner resonance. I mean, when you think about some of the great inventions in the world, whether it's the light bulb, whether it was the engine of Henry Ford, there was no replica or model of it, right? It just, the insight came, and then somebody acted on that insight. The truth alone does not set us free. It is acting on the truth that sets us free. And so when we actually take this truth and we actually put it into the world in some sort of form, in those examples, that's a light bulb and a car. But for me, it's taking these truths and putting them into book and decoding these metaphors for people to use. It's really just an inner resonance. And there's no other way to explain it, because they're not verifiable in terms of fact. And I think a lot of people have mistaken fact for truth. And I believe that there are some higher truths than fact. Fact is what you might be able to perceive with your perception, but it's not true. So I may be able to perceive that perceive that you are a white male, Okay. That is a fact in the moment, but is it the truth about who you truly are? No, we know that you are a
Mm.
spiritual being having a human experience. Now,
Mhm.
how could we prove that you are a spiritual being having a human experience to somebody who is living in the material reality? We can't really verify it, but you and I know that we don't say that if I say my body, the question is who is possessing the body? There's a
Mhm.
my. Some my is possessing the body. So then I can't be my body. Just like I say my car. I'm not my car, but I say it's my car. Right. So if I say this is my body, who is the my? And the my is that invisible spiritual entity that is actually
Mhm.
the controlling this entire situation. And this is just our avatar or our bodysuit that we're wearing for this particular experience we call life. So it's the
You
inner knowing and resonance.
you are
There's no other
incredible.
way to explain it.
Well, I love it, but I also want to know, where is it coming from? So, in other words, if Henry Ford downloaded an image for a car and everybody else is riding horses all around
Yeah.
them, and he's like focused on a vision that nobody else has, or maybe one or two other people out there in the world, where'd that
Yeah.
vision come from? Where did the download for you come from for your book? Where did that insight come from?
Man,
What
you're
do
asking some
you?
good questions.
Where's
You're
that?
asking some great questions, man.
Good.
I
I don't want to bore you, so
no,
I'm going
you're
to
not
ask
at
it.
all. The
Yeah.
it's similar to, especially when we're talking about spiritual things, it's
Yeah.
almost like asking where did the wind come from? You don't know where the wind actually came from, but you know you feel and are experiencing the wind in this moment, but you
Hmm.
can't point to the source of it. You just know that you're experiencing it. And so when I
Hmm.
talk about that inner resonance, when I read the scripture and that download comes to me and I see goosebumps on my body, just like the wind passing by you, you might feel goosebumps and or something like that. Like
Hmm.
that's how it unfolds for me. And so when it comes from not a physical place, it comes from alignment, seeking
Hmm.
to purify my heart and stay in alignment with God to the best of my ability in every single moment. That two of my favorite prayers is, "Dear God, I just want to be in alignment. Dear God, I just want to be in alignment. Dear God, I just want to be in alignment." My
Hmm.
most favorite prayer, the one that has resonated the strongest with my community, is "Be me, God.
Hmm.
Be me, God. Take over
Hmm.
this vessel and just be me. Don't just use
Hmm.
me. Don't just work on me. Don't solve problems for me. Come and be me. I'm giving you permission to be me, right? As a child of
That's
God. And
remarkable.
yeah,
Be me, God.
that's it.
That is remarkable. And so, because I'm in the question seat here, I got to ask these different questions. What somebody says, "Be me, God," and suddenly they go and rob a bank, and then they blame it on, "Oh, I was just, it wasn't me, it was God. It descended, it took over, and I went and did this."
Yeah.
What about that?
What about that? That is probably a misunderstanding of be me, God, because
Hmm.
anytime God is using you and God being the parental figure, God, any action inspired by God is going to create the greatest good for you and everyone around you.
That's
Robbing a
probably the
bank does
best
not create the
qualifier.
greatest good for you, or it may create the greatest good for you because you just stole money, but it does not create the greatest
I
good for
got it.
everyone around you. So when it's this be me God, nobody gets hurt when you take an inspired action,
Mhm.
or no loss is created when you take an
Mhm.
inspired action from the place of be me God. No loss is created.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. I'm sitting with that a moment. Be me, God. I'm just imagining if that was a meditation and I woke up in the morning and I kind of said, "Be me, God," what
Yes.
would then happen?
Yes.
And I'm only rhetorically asking. I don't know what would happen, but it's like a wonderful experiment to find out. And the fact that it would help myself, but more importantly, all the other people that my orbit would touch that day.
Yes.
Be
Yes.
me, God.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
God works through us.
Yeah.
See, in Genesis, God is not the multiplier. God provides. We are supposed to be the ones that are be fruitful and multiply. God did
Mhm.
not multiply in Genesis. God provided, right? But then
Mhm.
we are the ones that are supposed to be fruitful and multiply. So God actually works through us.
Mhm.
God works through us. And so we are able to serve people with this knowledge. There are people out there serving food. There are people serving education. There's people serving products and services, right? So God is actually working through us to serve its other children.
And I can see God working through you because you've written your book, Rich and Righteous, which I so love. You did your workbook, which is Rituals. You're
Yes.
doing talks. You did at least 5 TED Talks that I can see there.
Yes,
And you
sir.
have 5 other books that I'm aware of right now. So you're doing a whole lot of that. And of course, you're doing all this helping with people and their mortgages and rent and all of that.
Yeah.
My God, where do I even go from here? What I want to know, because I always imagine that there's somebody sitting and watching the show or listening to this as a podcast, and they're broke, but they're seeking, and they're in Iowa, sitting on a sofa with a bag of Doritos and feeling hopeless. And they turn in to Dr. Joe to see, well, who does he got this week? And then I've got you, and you say all of these wonderful things. What would you say to them to help them in this moment? Maybe the pandemic crippled them. Maybe they were part of the great resignation and they quit their job or were laid off. Maybe they got 2 kids, divorced. They're sitting on the sofa, bag of Doritos, darkness is in their eyes and heart, but they got a glimmer of hope because they hear you.
Yeah.
Where would you advise them to go first?
Yeah. So here's the issue with some of our movements, especially around positive psychology and things of that nature, is that we try to encourage people who are in low states, in depressive states, reach for the stars, reach for the top, right? And I equate that, talking about metaphor, to rock climbing, right? If you're at the bottom of a rock climbing wall and somebody's telling you, ignore your negative thought, right? That's down in the pits, and just reach for your highest thought. Just be happy. I can't be happy. That's way up there. I can't reach that. So what do? You reach for the next highest level of vibration that you can access and hold.
Oh, that's good.
You don't just you don't just go from unhappy to happy just with an affirmation, because you know in your spirit, even though the affirmation is true, right? You know in your spirit that it's not true for you in the moment. But what you can do is you can go from I am suicidal to I am sad. No, I'm depressed. To I'm sad. To I'm okay. To I'm doing better than average. I'm doing good. I'm actually happy. I'm actually overjoyed. You can work your way up, but oftentimes when inspiration comes to a person in a depressed state, it is telling them to just go from here to here. And this is why people have so much difficulty, because they feel like they're lying to themselves when you say, tell them I'm rich affirmation. Just say I'm rich. If you're poor and there's nothing, I'm rich. That is why affirmations are deceptive. Your affirmation should be tied to the next level of vibration that you can actually hold, not just the highest vibration possible. The other thing is that it's really important that that individual do what they can, which is cultivate their mind. And cultivating your mind is pretty much free, right? You are doing that right now. You're tilling the soil of somebody's mind. The reason why is because if you're on YouTube and you're looking for all these wealth strategies and get rich quick schemes, okay, you cannot give wealth strategies to a poverty consciousness, because they will not take root. So I could give you a strategy to start a business. I could give you a strategy to go start a rental car company right now with Turo. I can give you a strategy for Airbnb. I can give you a strategy for stocks or day trading. I can give you a strategy for all of that. But if it falls into a poverty consciousness, then as wealthy as those seeds are, as rich as those seeds are, they won't take root and they won't bear any fruit. Because the consciousness that is receiving it is actually scarce and depleted. And so what you can do from sitting on your couch eating your Doritos is you can cultivate your mind for abundance, right? You can actually uproot your negative programming and thoughts about money. What is your relationship to money, right? People say, oh yeah, I want more money. The question that many people have never asked is, okay, you want more money. What does money want? If you spent more thought energy, instead of just saying, I want more money and expecting it to come, what if you just figured out what money wanted and then saw what was within you and what was it in terms of your own assets, your own personal capital, intellectual capital, social capital, financial capital, human capital, and physical capital? What could you use around you to actually draw money to you based on what money wants? If you are trying to attract a woman or a man, the best way to attract them is to get clear on what they are looking for. And so money has some characteristics of people that is moving. First and foremost, money wants to be in motion. If you want to save money in a bank account, you just want it for your own financial insecurity, not security. The people who save money, they're actually financially insecure, but they're masking it as financial security. You're insecure. Here's why: is because your bank account is only paying you 0.03% interest. So what you're saying is that you can only grow that $100. You'd rather put that money in a bank account and let it only grow to $100.03 over the course of an entire year, rather than you taking it and multiplying it for yourself. So that's actually financial insecurity, because you're playing it safe. And we haven't even talked about inflation being 8 to 10%. So you're actually losing money by saving money, right? And so these are some of the thought patterns that people have to release, that money is not meant to be hoarded. Money is meant to be circulated. And the more you circulate money, the more you get paid.
Jullien, I love all of it. These are fantastic insights. The people that are sitting on the couch, or that person, whatever the case, and they're in poverty consciousness, maybe they just sat up a little bit and were listening to you and understood. And then you said, what does money want? And they're like, money, what is money? Isn't a personality. Money isn't a living being. Money doesn't have a choice. Money doesn't make decisions. How do they wrestle with that question? They're sitting there going, I like this guy, and I'm going to go get his book.
Yeah.
But how do they make sense out of what does money want? I know I was homeless. I was in poverty. If you had said that to me way back then, I'd go, well, give me some money and then I'll ask it.
Yeah.
Because right now I don't have any.
Yeah.
So how do you make that real for somebody? How do they play with that?
Great question. So money wants to be used. It wants to circulate. It's called currency, right? Why? Because it's supposed to have a current. And so it is not attracted to somebody who's just going to hold it and hoard it for themselves. And so we are meant to take money, which is an inert spiritual substance. Money is just stored energy, and it is useless unless you use it, but not use it for expenses, because when you spend money, you end money. So it's not just meant to be used for your own personal good. You have the power to multiply that stored energy. So the greatest currency, first and foremost, this is why you don't need money. This is why you were homeless and had no money in your account, because guess where the greatest currency is in the world, family? If we understand money to be stored energy, guess where the greatest energy and form of currency is in your life? It's in your body, family. The greatest form of currency is in you. Why do you think these corporations pay people minimum wage? Why? Because they're paying you for the currency that is in your body. In the Matrix, what were they using the human bodies for in the Matrix? They were using them for batteries. Why? Because the greatest currency in the world is in you. And when you've used this currency properly, it allows you to build up a mass of currency, and some of that comes to you in the form of money. And guess what, Dr. Joe? All the energy that I've created and expanded in the world, I only get to keep part of it as money. The value that you've created in the world, you only get to get some of it back as money, so that you can continue to do the good and the God that you were created to do. So first, I want them to know that the greatest currency in the world is inside of them. And why would their creator create them for a purpose and then not give them everything that they need to fulfill that purpose? That would be a cruel creator. And so this really comes down to your relationship to your source, whatever you call it, however you define it. Do you believe that your creator would have created you to be sitting on the couch eating Doritos day after day after day? Do you believe that your creator would forsake you and not give you everything you need to get to the next level? Do you believe that this is your destination? And if you don't, then your next step has to be around you. When you're putting a puzzle together, you don't look for the entire puzzle to be done. All you're looking for is the next piece. Oh my goodness, you have a lawnmower outside. Oh my goodness, if you look down the road, there's 5 people who need their lawn cut right now. That's economic opportunity.
I love it. My word. Now, are you really telling me this is all just descending on you as a download, even as we're speaking? You seem so articulate. You seem like you are on one hand surprised by my question. At the other hand, 1 second later, you're brilliantly answering it.
Man, so I'm sure you know Reverend Ike.
I do. He influenced me. I loved what he does.
He's one of my online mentors.
Yeah.
Bill Donahue is also amazing at decoding the Bible.
Mm.
But outside of that, and people like you, obviously the movie The Secret, um, I don't source a lot from like individuals or
Mm-hmm.
like mentors.
Mm-hmm.
This is really pure inspired thought by an original thought. And most human beings don't have original thought. And I've been able to keep myself in a vortex and an alignment where I'm able to access original thoughts that you can't Google, that you're not going to
Right.
see 500,000 results with the same
Right.
thought on Google. And it's really, it has to do with my spiritual practice. And my spiritual practice, to simplify it, is meditation every morning. That's
Mm-hmm.
really it. And the reason I keep getting divine downloads is because Spirit knows that when I get them, I put them out. Spirit is not going to keep giving you divine downloads if you're only keeping them for yourself. And so Spirit knows that when I get them, not only do I translate them into text, but I also may put them into video, etc., so that the message gets out. And this is why God keeps communicating to me and through me, is because it knows that the message is going to get out. It's kind of like people who get all these $1 million business ideas, but they never acted on them. At some point, God stops giving you it because it knows that the seed is not going to bear any fruit through you because you never act on it. And so me and God are in a relationship where it keeps coming because it comes down, I give it out. It comes down, I give it out. It comes down, I give it out. So God keeps speaking through me as a messenger.
Couple questions for you. You say God keeps speaking through you, but it sounds like God is outside of you. Because of God, and you pointed up and said it was coming down and came into you. Where's God? Well, in your opinion, where is God?
God is all. God is all. So, yes. So I'm glad you pointed that out. So God is within. First, God is within and without. God is all. So we are in God. It's like a fish being in water. You're like, where's the water? The fish doesn't know where the water is. It may not even understand the concept of water because it's just in water, right? And the water is in it at the same time, right? So God is all. The divine download means I'm doing this from a higher perspective, like it's coming from a higher level of consciousness, and then it's coming out of my actual physical mouth. Not because God is above me or in the sky or anything of that nature. It's just it's directionally.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, let me ask you another question. This one was on my mind even earlier before we started talking. You mentioned The Secret, the movie and the book, and of course you mentioned the law of attraction. I have seen people that called themselves religious or called themselves Christians that want to destroy The Secret, who have dismissed the law of attraction. I had a business partner at one point, and he completely left a very thriving business because his wife said the law of attraction was not from God. And no matter what I said, nobody was getting convinced there. What is your take? You obviously said law of attraction and The Secret, and you sounded like you said it in a positive way. What's your take on the law of attraction and The Secret? Is it?
Yeah. So I think it's been misused, and I think we've taught too much of a simple version of it. Right. So in scripture, it says, it is done unto you as you believe. As a man thinketh, so it is. So the scriptural basis of it is there. Right. But here's the problem. Many people didn't see the full depth of The Secret, and they just said, oh, I just got to create a vision board and put all the things that I want on it and look at that every single day, and my life will manifest according to that vision board. First and foremost, your vision cannot fit on an 18 by 24 inch poster board.
Right.
Your vision is not just an accumulation of things. And then thirdly, most vision boards, Dr. Joe, are selfish. Most vision boards are only for yourself and what you want. But what I found is that when your vision includes other people, helping other people, when you have a vision that actually helps other people, guess what happens when you fulfill that vision? You get everything that you want. It says, seek ye first. Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness. Basically, walk in your God-given purpose. And then all these things will be added unto you. But a lot of people go directly after the things without service. Service is the secret to success, not a vision board. And oftentimes, in addition to that, when people look at their vision board, they wonder why it's not manifesting. It's not manifesting because their vision, but they look from the lens that they look at it from. They look at it from a place of absence. Their vision board is actually reminding them of the absence of those things, not of the presence of those things right here in the present moment. So they look at it and they say, whatever. I'll never have that. I wish I had that car. I hate my car. Right? Their vision board, their daily vision board is reminding them of the absence of those things, not the presence of them here and now. And so this is part of the reason why they're actually repelling the things that are on their vision board. So many people just watch The Secret, and their summation of it is go create a vision board. And there's more to it than that. And I think we missed out on some of the deeper messages, the quotes by you, Dr. Michael Beckwith, Bob Proctor, that really get at the spiritual essence of what that movie was all about. But for me, the real secret is not a vision board. The real secret is service. When you are when your life is in service to others, I believe that the Creator provides for you in abundance, in celebration of you being in alignment and doing God's will here on earth.
How does somebody find out what their role is for being of service? So in other words, you found out what it is for you. I apparently found out what it was for me during or after homelessness. How does somebody find out that's, they're watching, they're listening, they're at the coffee shop, who knows?
Yeah.
But they want to do something bigger.
What problem in the world makes you sad or mad when you hear about it or experience it yourself? And start there. See, a lot of people say, go follow your passions and the money will follow. I have a different take. Find a problem that you are passionate about solving, and then the money will follow. Find a problem that you are passionate about solving. And that requires you to help people. It's not just about going and doing what you love. It's about doing something that actually helps other people. The reason Elon Musk is one of the wealthiest people in the world because he's solving 3 of the biggest problems in the world. He's trying to get us off of fossil fuels with Tesla. Okay. He's trying to harness the power of the sun, which is the most sustainable energy source that we have, through Solar City. And if those don't work, then he's trying to get us out of here with SpaceX.
Yeah.
He's solving 3 of the biggest problems. So his wealth is directly proportional to the size of the problems that he solves. Bill Gates is wealthy because he solved a huge problem. Jeff Bezos created the greatest, not retail company, the greatest distribution company ever created. He solved a huge problem so that you could get what you desire in your head, right? And almost make it feel like manifestation with Amazon Prime, because you thought about it in your head, you ordered it, and it's on your doorstep, right?
Yes,
That's as close as you're going to get to manifestation, right? So he solved the distribution problem for an entire country, right? So instead of just focusing on what you're, observe your emotions. What triggers you the most? Because that which triggers you, or that which brought you pain in your own journey, you are likely meant to heal and be a solution for others so that nobody else goes through that experience.
No, that is absolutely brilliant. You knew that I was going to interview you for a while now because you were so kind to answer my Instagram message to you on Instagram.
I'm glad I caught you, man.
Jullien Gordon on Instagram. And so you've had time to think about this. Was there a question you were hoping I would ask? Were you rubbing your hands together saying, oh, I hope Dr. Joe asked me this one because I really want to tackle it. I really want to answer it. This is the story I want to get out. Was there something there?
One that comes to mind that I would love to mastermind with you on is what is the future of money and spirituality? What is the best way for money and spirituality to be intertwined? We see that currency is changing. The Fed now is coming in. We're losing this physical form. So money is actually becoming more digital and more energetic in terms of its actual form. I was leaving a park, and they would not allow me to pay in cash. We don't accept cash anymore.
Right.
So and we know that cash is literally flat cotton. So a lot of people think that slavery was over, but if you're on the corporate plantation, you're picking cotton every single day anyways, because the US dollar is 70% cotton, right? So we're losing this physical form. And we know that also that 13 of 39 of Jesus's parables were about money. And so we've had this inverted and perverted relationship with money. And I would love to mastermind with you, like, what is the future of money? What is the healthiest relationship of money? I believe that we are supposed to be masters over money. Money's not supposed to be master over us. Somehow we let this green piece of paper dictate all of our daily decisions, and we are supposed to have power over it. We're supposed to use it. We're supposed to possess it. It isn't supposed to possess us. But I'm interested in knowing what you perceive as the healthiest relationship that we as human beings can have with this inert spiritual substance.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to turn the question on me. But I'll give you a 30-second
Yeah.
instantaneous, unprepared, ad-libbed response.
Yeah.
First of all, in my opinion, spirit, God, the divine is leading the way for all of us. So
Yes.
the evolutionary changes that take place are actually being guided by a force that is moving us around like we're the chess pieces here.
Yeah.
We act like we have control. We act like we are the ones making the decisions. But, I would say almost all the time, 99.9999, whatever, we're not the ones. We're unconscious. We're blindly doing things. I think that force, the white light force, God, is the one maneuvering things. Even today, I had the same experience you were talking about. I wanted to hire this person who's in another country to do some work for me, service for me. He sold me. I was ready to do it, but he didn't want cash. He didn't want PayPal. He didn't want a bank wire thing. He wanted to do with something else, and it wasn't even Bitcoin. It was something, and I was like, what is happening? It is like the monetary system as I've known it is being disintegrated.
Yes.
And here's my hunch. I think it's being disintegrated for the very thing you pointed out. We have infused it with our survival, our emotions, our security, our personality, and it isn't supposed to have all of that or carry all of that. It in and of itself, it's neutral. It's a piece of paper. It's cotton, as you pointed out, or it's metal, it's coin. I think it's being broken down, and this new thing, which is spiritually driven, is going to replace it, maybe so we can have a pure relationship with the financial transactions.
Yeah.
And after I said all of that, I'll say, I don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
So
know.
yeah, my hope is that those of us who are righteous release the idea that money is the root of all evil, right? And
That's the big one. That's the big one.
Right. And we release that because the scripture actually says it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And yes, we should never love a substance that we created, right? Because we're literally giving something that we created more power over us than we have over it. We also have to understand that it's the lack of money that is also the root of all evil. This is what Reverend Ike says all the time, right? Is that the lack of money has created more ill will in this world than even the love of money. And so we have to be aware that as children of God, abundance is our birthright. And once we have the right relationship with money, knowing that I don't perceive it as much as I love my balance sheet, I don't perceive any of that money as mine. My name is not on any of it. Right. It is stored energy that I am meant to use, and I'm meant to be a good steward of that. And the reason I keep getting blessed with it, similar to the parable of the talents, right? The reason I keep getting blessed with it is because I keep doing good things with it. And that's why God keeps resourcing me, sending me resources or resources from the source, is because I keep continuing to be a good steward of the energy that I have. Some people want to be millionaires, but they haven't become great stewards over $10,000. You're not a great steward over $100,000. So why do you think your angel investor, God in this case, would bless you with $1 million when you haven't been a good steward over $100,000? See, the real reason that many people are not millionaires yet is because they actually don't need to be. Your vision board doesn't actually require you to be a millionaire. And so your vision is so limited to just you and what you can do for yourself or for your family of 4, right? Your nuclear family. You don't need $1 million for that. And so if you really want to be a millionaire, you have to create a vision that either requires you to have $1 million to fulfill it, or that results in you having $1 million because you fulfilled it. So many people who are not millionaires, you're not just going to wish your way into it. It's going to require the secret word, the real secret, which is service to others. Somebody else has your money. You will only get your money through other people.
Right. Exactly.
And so
right.
You have to ask yourself, how can I serve other people in order to, that's one of the things money wants. It wants to solve problems. It wants to create solutions for people. Nobody actually wants money. You can't drink it. You can't drink it.
Right. Right.
You can't eat it. You can't wear it. It has no particular function. What we want is what we can transmute money into. The reason we value cash at this moment in time, and we're not for long, is because it is the most liquid form of capital, meaning that we can transmute it into these other things a lot faster, right? But beyond that, in and of itself, just holding it has no value. And so the person and the people, hopefully the righteous, who know how to use it at its highest use, we invest it and transmute it into ideals, ideas, investments, individuals, and institutions that we believe are doing good or God's work. I believe that once you demonstrate that you're a good steward of that, that more energy and substance that we call money is going to come to you and circulate through you. And this is how we bring what I call heaven on earth. Heaven is not a place that we go to after we die. Heaven is our mental experience of life. It is the greatest good that we can see for ourselves and others. And earth is our material experience of life. And as the Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven, right? As above, so below. We are here to bring all of these good ideas that we have in the heaven of our mind into our material experience, which is earth. And that is what this entire game is all about.
That is so good. I am running out of time, and I am already sorry about that because there's so much more we need to talk about and can talk about. But let me ask you this. I try to ask every guest this question because the show is called Zero Limits Living. I've turned it into an exploration of the question, do we have any limits? So in your opinion, do we have any limits? And you can make it focused on wealth, for example, if you want. Are there any limits to somebody watching or listening to becoming rich and righteous, or bringing more money in, learning how to serve, finding their vision, finding the passion for a problem? Are there any limits?
No, there are no limits. The only limit is your mind and the cup that which you receive in, right? So if you are approaching God with a Dixie cup, then guess what? God can pour the ocean into you, and you are only going to be able to collect the size of the Dixie cup. If you approach God with a bowl, you will only be able to, God can pour the ocean towards you, but you'll only be able to collect the size of the bowl. One thing that righteous folks have difficulty doing, because by default we are givers, our greatest difficulty and the skill set that we have to develop the most is receiving.
Yeah.
Our receiving muscle is not strong enough. And while we have to receive, we don't receive for ourselves. We receive so that we can give more.
How do you learn to receive more? How do they learn?
How do you learn to receive more? This is going to sound so simple, but I'm trying to make it practical. Yeah. When somebody opens the door for you, accept it and say thank you. When you're trying to carry all the groceries to your car or into your house by yourself, and somebody says, "Can I help you?" and your first inclination say, "No, I got it," accept it. When somebody takes you out and they actually want to pay for dinner or lunch, how about you just receive? You've been giving all of your life, and then when somebody else wants to, and you know it feels good, but when somebody else wants to give to you, you actually cut off their giving by not receiving. And so the opportunities will present themselves. You just have to notice them and actually receive, and then observe yourself. How does that feel? Until the feeling of receiving is just as good as the feeling of giving, because then that's what creates the healthy balance. And that's what allows you to keep giving. Because if you keep giving, but not receiving, your cup will ultimately be empty, and that will cut you off from receiving and giving.
Wow. You are amazing. What a startling, inspiring, surprising interview this has been. Where can people go to find you? Where can they go to get your book, Rich and Righteous, and the workbook, Rituals? Where do you want them to go?
Yes. Thank you so much. So the book is at moneyandmanifestation.com. Moneyandmanifestation.com. That's where you can get the book. I'm on Instagram primarily and YouTube at Jullien Gordon. Gordon, Jullien, Gordon.com. And if you're interested in becoming a real estate investor and owning your first multifamily home, you can go to my free webinar coming up, which is at rentfree.com. That's rentfree.com.
I can't thank you enough. You have greatly enlightened and inspired me, and you are a joy to talk to. I love your energy, the vibrancy you have around you, the smile on your face, and of course, the wisdom that you're sharing. So
thank you, Dr.
Thank you. You've touched me.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Everybody, I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been listening or watching Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you information and inspiration to transform your life. The show is so popular, you can see it or hear it on 1,000 platforms from Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, and 1,000 more. Go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com to see all the episodes and to sign up to be notified when new ones come out. Check out coaching. I have a program called Miracles Coaching. It's at miraclescoaching.com. Check out my new book, Unexpected Kindness. It's at unexpectedkindnessbook.com. New program is mentaltimetravel.system.com. I want to thank Lux Media Studios. I want to thank Candace Barr, who I believe has a birthday today. And I want to thank Chris and Nick for running the engineering department. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, watching the show, and spreading the gospel, so to speak. I love you. Expect miracles.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.